Kind of the idea with this presentation today is to show kind of the ins and outs of integrating with Google Ads and analytics. It's something that's super common for agencies to do out there. If you've got Google Ads campaigns running for your clients, this is going to show how to integrate ActiveDEMAND better and some of the different benefits that you can get out of it. And I'm going to go live on a couple of these parts as well, just to show you how to set up some of the stuff that I think is underused in the platform, because there's some cool stuff that you can do in here. If any of you, this presentation is primarily for you, but if any of you see slides that you might want to present to clients, just send an email to me, and we'll get the presentation deck over to you, and you can just use it as you want to with your clients. So kind of the things that we'll be covering today: why integrate, what are the pros and cons of doing it, using ValueTrack parameters, these parameters that Google and a lot of these other ad platforms use, importing conversions, integrating with Google Analytics, and then some like real, in my opinion, some really cool stuff with integrating custom Google Analytics events into ActiveDEMAND. Before I go too far, I'm going to be using some jargon today. And I know that sometimes jargon is impossible to figure out, but there's too many times I'm going to be saying Google Analytics and Google AdWords and that kind of thing. So AD, that's going to be ActiveDEMAND. GA is going to be Google Analytics, and GAds is going to be Google Ads. Before, when it was Google AdWords, at least you could say AdWords and everyone knew what you meant. Now you have to say Google Ads all the time, 2 words. Oh man, so what a waste of time. But anyways, I'll be referring to them using these terms, and that phrase in the bottom right actually means something, and that's what I and some of the other people here used to do as well. So without any further ado, why integrate GA and Google Ads with ActiveDEMAND? Really, ActiveDEMAND does a fantastic job of tracking conversions, and it can track more than a typical setup with Google Analytics. So if you just had a customer, maybe you built their website for them, it'd be very typical to just set up form submits, make sure you integrate those form submits with Google Analytics, and then that's it, right? With ActiveDEMAND, you've got a lot more options out of the gate, so you can track more of those, and getting those into those platforms is really going to help. The other one, and this one kind of surprised me when I started to get de-anonymized information, was that lead quality varies quite a bit based on keyword used. What I mean is that one campaign might generate a lot of leads, but the leads might be garbage. And another campaign might generate fewer leads, but the leads might be really good. And one of the things that you can start to identify is some of the keywords inside your campaigns are producing good quality leads. Some of them are producing poor quality leads. And I think that you really do need the de-anonymized information to get that, unless you're running huge volumes. And I mean, a lot of customers just aren't running the volume to run a super rigorous statistical analysis of lead quality. So you have to look at the individual. And the other thing that I think needs to happen is a lot of companies out there need better quality leads, not a high volume of crap. And I think that one of the risks you have with sending a whole bunch of crappy leads to a client is that they'll say, those leads aren't good. We don't even use them. We don't even do anything with them. We don't call them back. We don't do anything. That's a risk of generating crappy leads. Google Ads and Google Analytics are anonymous, and that can hurt some of this different trying to track things back. When the things are not anonymous, it's better for QC and reporting, and I'll show you some of that a little bit later on. And you can also centralize reporting, so you can have ActiveDEMAND's reporting alongside with Google Analytics. You can have aggregate and non-aggregate reporting right next to each other, which is really nice. And then the last point I had here is tracking AD landing pages inside Google Analytics. So practically speaking, we need our Google Ads keywords for the visitors inside ActiveDEMAND. We need ActiveDEMAND events and conversions inside Google Analytics and inside Ads. We need GA stats and widgets inside ActiveDEMAND so that we can do these integrated reporting. And we need tracking on those landing pages. So I'm going to do the easiest ones first, because some of these are like a 1-minute task, whereas some of these you need to think about it a little bit. Getting Google Analytics inside ActiveDEMAND is pretty quick. It allows you to build dashboards and scheduled email reports that use both of those alongside each other. I would say that Google Analytics, it's really unbeatable when it comes to traffic trends, page analysis. They've been around the longest. They have a fantastic reporting suite. I've been using Google Analytics ever since it was Urchin, this server-side analytics package, and it was good even back then, and it's just gotten better since. It's also really good for grouping traffic and page views, so you can start examining themes or channels in very broad senses inside Google Analytics, and that's difficult to do inside other platforms. ActiveDEMAND, on the other hand, is really good for filtering the heck out of your conversions and categorizing them as well. Remember when I was talking about crappy leads? One thing that I found with a lot of companies that I would look at their analytics for, and I've looked at hundreds, is that they would have, on average, about 7 conversions for every 1 good sales-ready lead. And that's because a lot of those conversions just weren't filtered to the extent that they needed to be, and therefore they had too many of them, and they were not a good signal of quality. So filtering and categorizing them does a lot for improving the signal-to-noise ratio of your leads. And then the other thing that ActiveDEMAND is great for is non-anonymized conversions, de-anonymizing those. So what does that look like? It might look like something like this. So on the left-hand side, I've got a dashboard. This is a real dashboard that I use to monitor ActiveDEMAND performance. All the stuff in blue is from Google Analytics. All the stuff in orange is from ActiveDEMAND. You can see I have these aggregate details right next to non-aggregate or inside the platform details that I'm getting from ActiveDEMAND. Same thing with our daily email. So I've got an email on the right-hand side, and that one also has Google Analytics and ActiveDEMAND right next to each other, playing nicely together. So that stuff really helps with reporting and helps with getting stuff out. Now, if you have a client that you're doing a lot of work with, or if you're in-house and you need to report on KPIs, I would encourage you to make a scheduled email report that has just the basics in it, just the stuff that is the most important KPIs, and automate it. Set up a scheduled report, make it go out daily, weekly, monthly, whatever works for you, and then just use that to provide reporting to your stakeholders, because it's just an easier way of getting those KPIs on a more consistent basis. The other thing that is really great is adding a lead story for proof of narrative. So like what I mean by that is the narrative that you might make with the reporting from before is, Google AdWords is sending 10 conversions per month for us, or whatever the number is, right? And you might tell a client that, okay, 10 conversions, cool. Are those any good? Are any of those people even buying? Like those kind of questions will come up unless you add some narrative to the story. So a lead story example might look something like this. This is just a screen. I actually took this one today. This is an example of someone who came to ActiveDEMAND. They landed on a white label marketing automation page. We can see here that their keyword was white label email marketing. And we can see the site visit. Okay, they went to the page, they went through some stuff, and they submitted for a trial. Fantastic. This is an easy thing to show to a boss. Like if I need to show this to my boss, and they were asking, hey, is Google Ads working? I could easily pull this contact up, show it, and say, yeah, you know what, Bob over here, they came in off of a Google Ads campaign, and look what happened here. So again, it makes it very easy for a client to understand what's going on and see that it's working. To set this up, there's 2 steps we'll need to do. The first one is getting our Google Analytics account ID or tracking ID inside ActiveDEMAND. So you'll find that inside your Google Analytics property settings. You'll find that tracking ID. It'll be UA dash blah, 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 some numbers afterwards. Copy that thing, slam it into your Google Analytics account ID inside ActiveDEMAND's account settings integrations. And then the next step you'll have to do, just one thing I want to jump in here. If you're going to be building ActiveDEMAND landing pages, while you're here, check this box, because what this box will do will include the Google Analytics tracking script on those landing pages, so you can track those as well. And the next step you'll need to do is authenticate a Google Analytics user inside the ActiveDEMAND platform. So under your third-party applications, you go Add Applications, Google, go through the rigmarole of authenticating, and you're good to go. That's it. Setting up a Google Analytics. It took me longer to describe it to you how to do it than it would to just jump in there and roll around. So that's how you set it up. One thing I just wanted to show you was how to use a Google Analytics widget in ActiveDEMAND, because that's something that's a little bit interesting. I think it's something that people don't do enough of. So let's just show you how to do it. So we're under Analytics, Report Widget Library. Let's go New Widget. I wonder what kind I should make. You know, one thing I like is making like single stat widgets. So a widget that just covers one number. And I've been sitting on this page for a while. Yeah, let's go to Google Analytics. You can see we've got lots of different sources we can pull from. I like these ones. We've got a lot of different options here. I'm going to just go for a single value. If I was going to do KPI reporting to a client, I typically would just do this. I would just do a single value. Metric, I don't know. It's not super interesting, but let's just pull up sessions, which is like website visitors. If you need to, you could also do some segmenting and some filtering. These use the Google Analytics terminology for the different variables. So you see this GA:sessions, so you'll have to use those here as well. And we have links on our support site on which ones you can use. Continue, and it's going to show me a preview here. I can change the title, website visitors. There we go, and I can see the widget. I could change the color if I need to, change the name, and then publish this thing out and use it in wherever I might want to use it. So I just wanted to show you guys that because it's not that difficult, and getting Google Analytics reporting inside ActiveDEMAND, again, can be useful if you're doing scheduled reporting or dashboards inside of inside of ActiveDEMAND. Come on, there we go. Next, getting Google Ads keywords inside ActiveDEMAND. This is one you're going to need to do if you want to do those lead stories and you want to say what keyword people search for and that kind of thing. And it uses ValueTrack. The reason why we're using ValueTrack is that if you set up auto tagging, that does the GCLID or GCLID or whatever you want to call it. It adds this like gobbledygook at the end of the link when people click on it from a Google ad. They're great, but they only link Google product data. So you can use that to link Google Analytics and Google Ads, but you can't use it to send any useful information from Google Ads to ActiveDEMAND. So instead, what we have to do is use ValueTrack Parameters. These are kind of similar to like your UTM codes and your campaign tagging that you do with Google Analytics. And it sends information from Google Ads to platforms like ActiveDEMAND. And we can send stuff like campaign, ad group, keyword, et cetera, et cetera. And ValueTrack works with Google's parallel tracking as well. So if you definitely want to get this into ActiveDEMAND, you definitely want to set this up. And although I'm talking about a lot of stuff that sounds complicated, like ValueTrack and GCLID and parallel, blah, 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 this is, again, a 1-minute job, and it's super easy to see afterwards. So let's look at that 1-minute job. Inside your Google Ads, you'll need to go to your account settings, and then there'll be a tracking template. And again, lots of gobbledygook. You can copy and paste the gobbledygook we have and just slam it right into your Google Ads and never think about it ever again, and it'll just work. So you just have to do this once for all of the ad accounts that you need to connect with. There's the gobbledygook. Again, this presentation will be shared with you, so we'll make sure to include the gobbledygook in there. But it's also in the support article that's related to getting ValueTrack parameters into AdWords. And the other thing you need to do is go into your ActiveDEMAND account, and then under the ValueTrack parameter labels, you'll need to put in the labels that you use. Now, if you use our example, you can just slap these in and it'll just work. And that's it. So that's all you need to do for ValueTrack parameters to get those in. Now you'll be able to see campaigns, ad groups, and keywords inside the Visit Sources report. So it'll actually show the campaign details there. You'll see it inside conversion reports. And one of the cool things, because you can get access to that ValueTrack as a part of the contact, is that you can use it for personalization. So one of the examples I'm going to show you here is a page that personalizes based on the ad and based on the keywords in those ad that was used to send people to that page. So with this one, this actually changes the language of that landing page again. So you can see here we've got an ad there that's specific to the search phrase, and you can see that it changes to lead pages. So you can use this kind of personalization to rapidly change a landing page to better match the keyword that people are using. And you can do all sorts of other weird and wacky stuff with personalization based on the ad that someone clicked on. So it's super powerful in that regard. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about is handling conversions and events. This is where things get a little bit more complex, and only complex because there's just a lot of different options. There's a lot of different ways of doing this. In terms of tracking those conversions to GA or Google Ads, there's a couple of options that aren't fantastic. If you're still redirecting to a confirmation page and tracking that as a goal, that's a pretty primitive way of doing this, and it's not really recommended anymore. Offline conversions are an option, but again, not fantastic. There are custom conversion tags you can do, which is, in my opinion, more work than is necessary. In terms of a recommended way, sending events directly to Google Analytics, then configuring goals in Google Analytics, then importing those goals into Google Ads is my personal favorite, because it makes sure that we have the same information in each different platform and the same truth, I guess, in all of them. There are two options for using this. You could use pre-configured ActiveDEMAND events, or you could use custom ActiveDEMAND events in a workflow, which is more flexible and more powerful, and I'll show you how that works in a minute here. If you don't have Google Analytics, there's a couple of different options for posting direct to Google Ads. There is the pre-configured version, and there's also a workflow action version as well. That's pretty fantastic. I want to talk about the one that is, for 90% of the people, the right option to do, and that's just using the pre-configured ActiveDEMAND events in Google Analytics. So if I was setting up a brand new client on ActiveDEMAND and I just needed a quick and easy way of setting up conversion tracking, the pre-configured events are the way to roll. Basically, ActiveDEMAND has a set event structure, and that pushes it to your analytics account. You check a box in ActiveDEMAND, and ActiveDEMAND starts sending events to Google Analytics. It'll send events on phone calls, form fills, that kind of thing. And then inside Google Analytics, you set up corresponding goals, and then you import those goals into Google Ads, which if you're an agency that does a lot of analytics and ads setup, this would be super common for you. Inside ActiveDEMAND, you'll check the box that says automatically post events to Google Analytics, and then inside Google Analytics, you will set up the goals that correspond with what you need to see. And that's it. So the reason why I'd always set this one up is because this takes no time to set up. The more flexible way to do this is to use custom Google Analytics events. And custom Google Analytics events are fantastic because you can filter your conversions to heck. You can filter them all sorts of ways and get really clean data when people convert. Because you can fire them in a workflow or autoresponder, it adds a lot more flexibility. And again, you get squeaky clean data. And I'll give you an example. What if you added a new form and you needed to test it, and you didn't get it right the first time, and you had to test it 5 different times? Well, now you got 5 conversions in your Google Analytics data that are showing up. And when you report to the client or you report to your boss, you got to remember, okay, yeah, June, there's those 5 conversions. I got to just remember to always -5 when I report with June. And then the next year, you do a yearly report. Why is June so high? Oh yeah, it's those 5 conversions. And it's always going to bug you, getting those in. So A fantastic way of cleaning that up is to add a decision in there. So this is a decision from one of our workflows, and you can see here we have a decision: does the email address contain ActiveDEMAND? And if it does, it sends a Slack message, says, hey, we got your test form. And if it doesn't include an ActiveDEMAND email address, we actually post the Google Analytics event. Now this is really nice because now we're not cluttering up Google Analytics with incorrect data. That's a really nice way of filtering it. On the Google Analytics event, you can customize out the category, action, label, even the value you can customize out. So if you have your ActiveDEMAND connected to your CRM and you've got values for deals being pulled out, you can post those to Google Analytics as well. Now, the next slide I'm going to show you is an example of this idea blown out over a long period of time with lots of different decisions on it. And this is an example of a lead processing workflow that is very, very mature. You can see all these little blue decision blocks. Those are all filtering this data, filtering. So many different ways of filtering. Before, you can see in the middle here, we're finally posting those Google Analytics events. So again, this isn't something that I would recommend someone like try to do right out the gate, but this is something you can build up to. You can build up to the point where the automation is really doing a fantastic job of filtering and categorizing people's behavior and then posting when it's really important to Google Analytics. One thing that I would just make note of here, if you have the ability to use Google Analytics events and post them anywhere inside any workflow, I would really recommend that you keep them centralized. We just have one lead processing workflow. If you have a bunch of them, or if you post Google Analytics events inside campaigns, it's just going to make it very difficult to troubleshoot and maintain. So I'd really recommend keeping those centralized inside a lead processing workflow. And that's about it in terms of tracking these. Once you have those events inside Google Analytics, you can set up the goals and import into Google Ads as you need to. We have help articles that will show you how to do that. So on our support site, engage.activedemand.com, you can check out integrating Google Ads conversions with ActiveDEMAND, posting pre-configured events to Google Analytics. I didn't talk about it today, but you can use Google Tag Manager as well if you have that in your agency as something that you deploy for clients. There is a way of using Google Tag Manager with ActiveDEMAND. Posting custom events is that last bit that I showed you, that really cooking with gas option. And then we have a couple of videos. Again, if you're integrating Google, you should probably integrate Facebook as well. And then there's attribution setup as well that we've talked about in a more broad sense of tracking attribution. So those are some of the different resources I'd recommend. And the last one would be to head over to learn.activedemand.com and check out our LMS there. That's where you can learn more about the platform. So that's it for the presentation.